Class, I'm glad to see you again. This is really our part two of John, and I'm going to try to wrap it up and talk a little bit about what happens. Things are going to go from bad to worse for our erstwhile king, and let's see what happens. And again, I want to say that I believe that both men, both John and Pope Innocent III, are guilty of abusing the authority that they have been given as king and as pope. Innocent III, I think, is the worst offender in using the power of salvation and the threat of seizing salvation or denying salvation, using that as a political tool. And I think that kind of abuse of power is truly, um, as my son would say, taking the Lord's name in vain, using it vainly. And he's I've talked to John Thomas quite a bit about some of the things that he's learned about in his theology courses, about what it means to take the Lord's name in vain and to misuse it like this certainly qualifies. So I feel for the English people. I think that right now they find themselves in the grip of a king who abuses authority, of the pope who abuses authority. They feel that they're going to lose their salvation. John is probably not a believer, and he has no doesn't bother him at all about what the church has done. And as a matter of fact, he uses this time to seize church property. If you are a priest or a bishop and you have refused to, um, if you have complied with the Pope's interdict and you have refused to celebrate the Mass or to perform weddings, then your property would be seized. The church property would be seized. That includes treasury, lands, everything. So this fits right into John's always trying to look for money to fight. And this goes on for about 6 years, if you can imagine that. I don't know if I just said this, but the Pope excommunicates John. He doesn't care. Doesn't care. No problem. And John decides to raise an army. He says, "I'm going to raise an army and attack the border of Wales." There's always trouble with Wales, and he there's a group called the Marsh Lords who are responsible for defending the Welsh borders, and he wants to shore them up and just take a little attack into Wales. And poorly timed, bad timing, more bad judgment on the part of John, and he finds out in the midst of this that if he raises an army, they intend to turn on him. Now, the way an army is raised is your barons, which is your precursor to the aristocracy. Your barons are your landed knights. They are men with military capability, with property, with wealth, with access to wealth, borrowing rights where they can pay and sustain an army to fight for the king. That's the whole purpose of a knight, is to wield his sword for his lord. And the king is the lord of the state, so these barons are responsible for that. Well, you don't want to make them mad. And they're mad at him. They're furious with him. They don't like him anyway. And if they're going to raise an army, the scuttlebutt they're going to turn it on the king. When he finds this out, he abandons his plans. And guess who else finds out? The Pope himself finds out that the barons are squarely not behind the king. So the Pope issues a statement saying, John is for all practical purposes deposed. He's excommunicated. He is apart from the family of God. His people don't support him. And then the Pope calls on other sovereigns or kings of Europe to come in and free the English people from this deposed king. Well, who do you think plans to answer that call? None other than our spider sitting in the web spinning, Philip. And Philip prepares to raise an army. Then all of a sudden, guess who does an about face and says, His Holiness, I accept Stephen Langton as your Archbishop of Canterbury. What was I thinking? Well, that is, of course, a turning point. Pope says, okay, you're back in the family. Interdict is lifted. And John thinks, phew, okay, everything's okay now. Well, his fury is raised against, now John is furious with Philip. How dare you plan to come in my nation and seize the day? So he decides to take a military force and go to France. Not well thought out, not well planned, undermanned, and it doesn't work. So John returns to France to try to reclaim some of the dukedoms or territories that he lost before. That's a complete disaster, a complete disaster. His clock is cleaned immeasurably. He's lost even more. So he returns home to England to face the fury of the barons, the baronial class, the common man. Now it's time to answer up for everything they have been put through. So you have to understand that with the Catholic mentality of the way it is now, or now being then in the early 13th century, class, if they believe, bless them, that if you died not having been your confession heard, or I think in this interdict, at times of death, if you had something you had to get off your chest, then the priest could hear that. But if you just died before you were able to do that, or you hadn't been able to take Mass, they really believed that they would not be able to be in the presence of Christ. And it's all too much for me, but I just want you to see the severity of these political games that were being played with people's faith. And this is going to go on for a while. But John is in worse trouble than ever. He comes home after this. I did. Let me tell you this. Please let me tell you this. When accepted Langton when John accepted Langton as Archbishop of Canterbury as part of the deal to get back in the Pope's favor, he also had to agree to recognize England as the Pope's vassal state. So England is the Pope's personal state now. John would say or do anything to get out of a tight spot. He had no intention of that. So, and I apologize for going back and forth with that. But John now gets his clock cleaned in France, goes home. The barons are furious with him. You can't do anything right. The people are mad at you. The clergy is mad at you. We're mad at you. You better do something, or you're going to have a civil war, or you're going to be completely deposed. And John says, wait. This is January 1950, January 1215. He says, wait. Give me some time to get things together. We'll sort all of this out. Please don't be mad. I'll get back with you. Well, what he means is, I'll get back with you after I have a force gathered that will meet with you. He says, just give me the Easter. I'll get things straightened out. And what he really means is, I'm going to find somebody that will defeat you and will show you to stand against your king. They figure out what's going on, and there is a meeting. John is lollygagged, and the barons know what's going on, but he doesn't have very much luck in gathering a force. And he's finally forced to meet them at Runnymede in June. This is June 15th. And John is forced to meet them at Runnymede. This is just outside of London, not too far from Windsor. It is seen as, a place to meet to iron all this out. And this is where John meets the barons, who have, with the help of Langton, come up with, it's basically a contract of good behavior. It's not called the Magna Carta at this point. It's going to be called that later on. But just think of it as a document to which the king is expected to place his seals, like, sign it. You don't want a civil war? Sign it. Put your seal there. And it's a promise on the part of John to stop abusing his people. I'm going to have you all look at, see, I've actually seen it's not a facsimile. I think it's actually a copy. The Magna Carta as we know it is um, refined and add detail added to it over a course of years. And um, that's what I saw at Lincoln Cathedral when we were there in the 90s. It's when I say a facsimile, it's not a facsimile. It's actually one of the originals, and I say originals, not one of the ones that's affixed at Runnymede, but one that was after it was refined a little bit in the next couple of years with Langton at the head of that. But this is so important for us because in this document, the king says basically he has to say that he's going to quit seizing property that doesn't belong to him, that he is not going to keep taxing his people to death, that he's subject to the authority of his people somewhat, and that there's limitations to his power. Well, and limitations, the church has to be protected. There's an address, you can't treat the church this way. But I want you to understand too that I want you to know who was mortally offended by this document was none other than Innocent. And he's like, he saw the writing on the wall that this is the people saying we're not going to be in your tug of war anymore between the two sides. And to me, this is not the beginning of England's written document appreciation. This really, I mean, they take what Henry the First did with the Charter of Liberties, and they come up with a new one. Sign it, sign it. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go by. You're going to go by. This is, you know, you're not the first king to have to recognize that there's some limitations to your power. You want to keep your head. You put your seal on this. But this is, a growing English tradition now that there are limitations on the king's power. And I don't know why they didn't understand. I say this to you all the time. I don't know why the English government didn't understand when we get to the 1760s why we took exception to the king's powers and Parliament's powers over us running amok. We just don't want that anymore. Well, it goes way back. It's part of the English mindset. And to show you again why England and France have to be under two separate governments, under two separate philosophies of rule, is just as there are limitations now really being reasserted on royal authority in England. This is when you're going to see France running with this ball that leads to absolutism. And if you've had modern Europe with me, or if you've had World II with Dr. Justice, you understand that the French become the prototypical state led by the prototypical absolutist monarchy, a power unchecked, unanswerable only to God. And of course, we see that in the personage of Louis XIV, but starting now in Philip. Now, Philip has his own run ins with the church. And some of you all know that when we get down to, I think maybe it's Philip's great grandson, I wouldn't say for sure. Um, when we get to Philip the Fair, Philip the Fourth, in France's history, what's he going to do when he gets mad at the Pope? Kidnaps him and removes the seat of the papacy from Rome to Avignon, France. So the problems with the church don't start with Henry VIII. But you have the people of England who said, we have had enough. We have had enough of a king. And this isn't just the aristocracy. These are the people. These are the people like us who work, who don't have great land holdings. They have just had enough. And I want to tell you, oddly enough, in any culture with a monarchy, the people that are the closest to the monarchy are the common people. They're the ones who are more awed by the monarchy. And John had lost everybody. He lost the aristocracy, the baronial faction. He had lost the common people. He had lost the poorest of the poor. Nobody liked him. So John affixed his seal to what will become the Magna Carta, and with no intentions of going by it. It's like, okay, I'll put my seal here, but it don't mean anything. As soon as I get my act together, then you'll see, you'll see. And of course his pledge to the Pope, you'll see, you'll see. Yeah, you go ahead and call me your vassal state. Let's see where that gets you in the end. And John, this is his legacy. His legacy. He's going to die of probably food poisoning or some kind of dysentery. Um, After he loses the crown jewels in the wash, and I want you to read your book and see what that means. It's a great story. So he seems to be the worst of the worst. The man makes everybody mad. He stands up to everybody until the going gets tough, and nobody likes him. He's terrible. He's terrible. He was, but he also brings out in England who she becomes. I think the English people have had enough of these Norman and Angevin kings, and um, I can see why. And we're tired of you playing, King of the Fiefdom over here. Your heart's in France. You're not really an Englishman. You don't understand your people. You don't love your people. That's got to change. And if we can't force you to love us, you are by golly not going to treat us this way. And you're going to fix your little wax seal on this document, and you're going to live by the rule of law. And again, the greatest legal tradition, yes, you can say goes back to Rome. You can say down the road that Napoleon, a great legal mind, but the legal tradition by which we live has two great sources, Scripture and the English legal tradition. And here it is, the rule of law. No man is above the law, including the king. Yeah, you can say all day long that you answer to God, but you also answer to the same law by which we answer. So you can see more of who we are as a nation. You can see who England is becoming as a nation here, and through the atrocities and the complete failure of, the realm of John, you see England striving to become what she will be. So I'm going to try to have for you just some notes that will help you, you know, work your way through all of this. And if you want to, if you would like to try to Zoom sometime, we can do a little thing. Let me know what you think. I would appreciate you all checking in. I'll be working on trying to get the online classroom a little better shape. And your exams are looking pretty good. So, but give me a couple more days on that. I will get caught up with you. We we are working hard to try to convert to things, and I'm as slow as Christmas. I hope that you can get something out of these lectures, and I do ask again that you would check in with me. They want to make sure that you take that little quiz. I need to go in and make sure you've all done that. I don't want to throw anybody out of class, but please make sure that I know where you are. If you're having any trouble, if you're having any anxiety about any of this or your other classes, feel free to talk to me. Feel free to talk to your other professors because they feel like Dr. Justice and I do. We want to all get through this. Dr. Justice was in a virtual dean's meeting this morning and was very pleased with just how Dr. Reynolds sees things going, and how especially the deans were talking. And I think it all comes down to we're all in your corner, and we all want to get through this together. I hope you're enjoying your time with your families, and I hope that you're having a little extra special time with the Lord in your Bible reading and your study. And if not, make that a priority. If you need some advising questions answered, let me know. I'll be working on advising. A couple of you have, I've got my advising notebook now. So if you have some questions, let me know. As soon as we get off this, I'm going to go into the online classroom, see what I can do. or not the online classroom, into self-serve and see what I can do about approving schedules. But thanks for your patience. If you have any questions, email me. Use your Truett email, please. They really want us to stress that with you, so use your Truett email. And I look forward to being back in touch with you. Hopefully, my son can get these uploaded for me, and we'll have something again tomorrow also. So thanks, and I love y'all, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.